To balance XYZ monsters, Konami made it so they'd have to detach materials to activate their effects, so you couldn't just use them every single turn for the rest of the game. So in this video, we're going to go over monsters that require 2 XYZ materials to be attached to use their effects, which is usually a premium cost. Starting us off at number 10, we have number 101, Silent Honor Arc. This monster can detach 2 materials from itself to target an opponent's attack position special summoned monster and attach it to itself as one of its materials. Also, if it would be destroyed by battle or card effect, it can protect itself by detaching a material of itself instead. Honor Arc was one of the best extra deck monsters to go into in the XYZ era, as it could both remove a threat on the field and still be protected as a beater afterwards. Nowadays, players often summon their monsters in defense position to play around Lightning Storm, but back in the day they did to play around this card. Honor Arc, Diamond Direwolf, and Castell used to make up the holy trinity of single target removal during the XYZ era, being able to do with almost anything between themselves. These cards all happening to be rank 4 were one of the biggest reasons why that toolbox used to be so relevant. This role is something mostly covered by nightmares these days, however, since they're easy to go into. Still, even if these cards aren't the premium form of removal anymore, Honor Arc is the only one that's still being ran. The new Shark support is actually quite powerful and gives you a reason to have the original in your extra deck. Additionally, because of Zeus, this card can also be ran as a nice rank 4 option to go into, since Honor Arc can protect itself to make sure it lasts the battle phase in order to go to the main phase 2 to rank up into Zeus. And at number 9, we have Dark Rebellion XYZ Dragon. One of the later additions to the rank 4 toolbox, this card can be made with any 2 level 4s and comes out with a pretty respectable 2500 attack. Its effect lets it boost itself even further, as you can detach 2 of its materials to target a phase that monster your opponent controls to have its attack, and then Dark Rebellion gains however much attack was lost. This card was very useful to beat over huge bodies and enable OTKs, being some sort of proto-Borosaur dragon. Even if it could only use its effect once, the attack boost doesn't go away at the end of the turn, so it would still pose a threat on the field if not removed. Despite not being as notable as the previous cards on this list when it first came out, this card would go on to become a staple in Phantom Knight Burning Abyss decks. The Phantom Knights of the Breaksword was often used to pop itself and another card on the field, and then would flip back into 2 other Phantom Knight monsters when destroyed, which would make them level 4. Since using that effect would lock you into dark monsters for the rest of the turn, Dark Rebellion was pretty much the best thing to go into at the time. Many years later, with the introduction of Lynx and the new PK support, this card would become playable again despite being so heavily power crept. Since it became so easy to get the new PK rank up spell, going into Dark Requiem XYZ Dragon for not a once per turn negation effect became a much more valid play, and it required the original Dark Rebellion Dragon underneath it in order to do so. And at number 8, we have number S39 Utopia the Lightning. This is a rank 5 light warrior with 2500 attack and 2000 defense that requires 3 level 5 light monsters to be made. It's pretty much always brought out there with alternative summoning condition though, letting it rank it up on top of any Utopia XYZ monster. If this card battles, your opponent can't activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step, and also if it has a Utopia XYZ attached to it, it can detach 2 materials to make its attack become 5000 when battling a monster. For the low cost requiring another extra deck slot for vanilla Utopia, this card gave you a better Dark Rebellion with an Archimedes on top. The Lightning was ran in lots of rank 4 strategies as a really easy out to monsters who were protected by just huge stats. Things like a Block of 4 Towers and Masterpiece could just be ran over with it, while also playing around any kind of battle tricks. The Lightning still remains a formidable monster to this day, but it's a bit harder to justify its inclusion in extra decks now. Many Link monsters were released that more or less fulfilled this card's niche and much more. Its restriction made it completely incompatible with Zeus, one of the best generic options for XYZ decks. In more recent times, this card ended up being replaced by the other Utopia rank up monster, Utopia Double, since that can straight up kill your opponent by attacking with 10,000 points of damage instead. Following us at number 7, we have number 106, Giant Hand. This is yet another generic rank 4 that can be made with any 2 level 4s. It can, when a monster on your opponent's side of the field activates an effect, detach 2 materials to target and negate a monster your opponent controls, and also make it unable to change its battle position. Giant Hand was notable for being one of the first rank 4s that were really good to make turn 1, as it could give you some really useful interaction during your opponent's turn. Differently from the other options available at the time, it was also generic, and its effect wasn't only usable against certain decks. The only reason it didn't see play in every rank 4 deck was because it was a prize card, only available to championship winners in 2013, and wouldn't be reprinted until years later. This wasn't the first time Konami locked a really useful card behind a tournament prize, but luckily it wasn't an overwhelmingly strong card at the time like Crush Card Virus or Maneuver were. By the time it became available to most people, it was still decent, but the rank 4 now also had many more forms of interactions with Trap Tricks with Flesia and Cyber Dragon Infinity through Tomahawk. Still, even as the third best rank 4 you can go into in turn 1, it still ended up seeing lots of play until the beginning of the Ling era, as it didn't require main deck bricks, or 3 level 4 monsters like those two. And at number 6, we have Primathmech Alembertian, a Cyberse rank 4 that can be made with 2 or more level 4s, and when it's XYZ summoned, you can detach 2 to 4 materials for it to gain a few different effects. For 2, you can add 1 Mathmech card from your deck to your hand. For 3, you can add any level 4 monster, and finally for 4, it adds any spell or trap card instead. Also, it lets you tribute one monster in the field to special summon a level 4 Mathmech from your hand or graveyard. This card is really good in Mathmech decks, which have become way better with the release of Mathmech Circular, which is a 1-card Alembertian and more. This card helps you set up their archetypal Trishula, Primathmech Alembertian, which often comes packaged with a negate as well. However, this card shines even more if you've got enough extenders to make use of its 4 material effects. This is one of the easiest ways to search any spell or trap in the game, letting you easily fetch limited cards from your deck. This play is even stronger in side-decked games, as you can search the perfect counter to your opponent's strategy when going first instead. In the LCG, this card was even one of the reasons they finally banned Vanity's Emptiness, since Adignisters, another Cyrus deck, has a 2-card combo that can end on their boss monster having gone through a 4-material Alembertian. And at number 5, we have number 75 Bamboozling Gossip Shadow. This is a wind spellcaster rank 3 that can be made with 2 or more level 3 monsters. It has the effect that, once per turn, when an opponent's monster activates an effect, you can detach material to make that effect become each player draws 1 card. It also lets you target another number Xyz monster you control and attach this card and all of its materials to it. This card's second effect was the main reason it was used at first, since it goes really well with Rongo Miniat. Rongo is a rank 4 monster that's unaffected by card effects and straight up locks your opponent out of summoning if it has 4 materials. And since it also happens to be a numbered monster, you can use Gossip Shadow to load it up. It was trivially easy to bring out a rank 3 and a 4 with the new Phantom Knight support as well. Luckily, this combo wasn't legal for long in the TCG, as Rongo got banned shortly after Gossip Shadow came out. However, the OCG and Master Duel still had to deal with the PK Rongo decks, only being somewhat held back by Maxx C and the eventual limitation of Torn Scales. Even without the card though, PK and also Virtual Role decks in the TCG still sometimes play Gossip Shadow, since it could be still used as a hand trap protection if made early enough in their combos. And at number 4, we have DDD Deviser King Des Machinex, a 3000 attack and defense rank 10 Dark Fiend that can rank itself up on top of any other DDD monster. Its effect is that, once per chain, when a monster card your opponent controls activates its effect, you can either detach 2 materials from itself or destroy a Dark Contract card to attach that card to Deviser King as a material. The release of this card single-handedly brought DDD decks back to the competitive sphere after years of being left behind. For a bit more context, the deck cycles through the Dark Contract cards as starters or extenders for their combos, which means this card will always have fuel to activate its effect at least a couple of times during your opponent's turn. Not only does this effect feed into itself by giving you materials, it's also one of the best kinds of removal, since it doesn't even send the monster to the graveyard. This card is trivially easy to bring out in DDD decks and can give you multiple interactions during your opponent's turn, even if you locked yourself into DDDs by using the effects of their best combo enabler, Giglamesh. And if you didn't, this card also gives you an easy avenue into Zeus, without even having to XC summon. Konami has yet to print an XCs that can overlay itself on top of links that isn't broken, as Dingirsu, this card, and the recently released Gigantic Sprite have all been part of very competent decks in the meta. And at number 3, we have Evolzar Laggia. This is a rank 4 dragon that needs 2 level 4 dinosaurs to be made and has 2400 attack and 2000 defense. Its effect is that, when a monster would be normal or special summoned, or when a spell or trap card would be activated, you can detach 2 materials to negate that summon or activation and destroy that card. Laggia was a really notable monster in the early XCs era, alongside its counterpart for monster effects, Dolka. Even if there weren't any very good dinosaur decks at the time, people would play Rescue Rabbit to bring out 2 Dino Vanillas from the deck just to bring this guy out. These Dino Rabbit decks, as they were called at the time, would eventually become the namesake of the format, and were of course a tier 1 threat at the time, alongside Inzectors and Windups. Laggia provided you with a Solemn Judgment on a Huge Body, a card which bounced between limited and banned back in the day. These dinos were such a powerhouse, people used to run 6 vanilla dinos in their decks just to be able to resolve Rescue Rabbit twice, and sometimes they'd even splash in a Dirac engine to give you just more ways of getting them out. This strategy would only fall off when Rescue Rabbit got itself on the limited list, but that wasn't the end of Laggia's playability. Many years later, we would get really good support for dinosaurs as a whole, which once again put a tier 1 threat that made the Evilsaur's XCs into the metagame. And at number 2, we have Divine Arsenal AA-ZEUS Sky Thunder. This is a 3000 attack and defense rank 12 light machine monster, which requires 2 level 12s to be made, but is usually made with its alternative summon condition, being able to be summoned on top of an XYZ monster as long as any XYZ monster is battled this turn. This card lets you detach 2 materials from itself to send all other cards from the field to the graveyard. It also has a lesser known effect, where if another card you control is destroyed by your opponent's card, it can attach material from your hand, deck, or extra deck to itself. For most other cards on this list, having to detach 2 materials was meant to limit you to using their effect a single time after being XC summoned, but that's hardly the case for Zeus. Due to how easy it is to stack XCs with cards like Zodiacs or generic rank-ups, Zeus is often brought out with 4 or more materials, letting you rip apart negate boards with its non-once-per-turn field wipe. Zeus's predecessor, Evolzar Laggia, provided a much weaker version of this effect, with more requirements while also being once per chain, and even that card was banned for years due to being too strong. This card made Konami have to once again put the Zodiac cards back on the ban list, due to how good they work together, and continues to be forced in the meta like no other cards on this list so far. If a deck goes into XC's monsters at all, it probably should be playing Zeus, as it's one of the best going second options in the game. And finally, at number 1, we have number 42 Galaxy Tomahawk, a rank 7 machine that needs a couple level 7s to be made. It has a single effect, where you can detach 2 materials to special summon as many level 6 machine tokens to your field as possible, but they're destroyed during the end phase. Also, your opponent can't take any damage until the end of the turn. Galaxy Tomahawk is the only banned card on this list, and for a very good reason. During the start of the Link era, cards that could just flood the field with tokens, like Grinder Golem and Scapegoat, suddenly became very good extra deck enablers for Link spam. Galaxy Tomahawk was one of those monsters, and the one that provided you with the most fodder as well, even if it couldn't be utilized as easily due to being a rank 7. No other card would, by itself, give you 6 monsters worth of materials like it does, letting you easily go into things like Fireball Dragon and the Nightmares, since it doesn't put any summoning restrictions on you. Bringing this card out would become much easier with the release of, at the time, TCG exclusive Danger monsters. The potential payoff was so high that Danger-centric decks would even choose to run the very mediocre Danger Dogman, solely due to being a level 7 for Tomahawk. Before getting banned in the TCG, this card would be a very good combo piece in Danger FTK, which aimed to spam Link materials on the field to make multiple Star Yugiohs and draw through most of your deck and then kill them with Slash Draw. Tomahawk remained legal in the OCG, however, probably because of Maxi making combo decks a bit worse, and the fact they only got the Dangers over a year after the West. However, this card still managed to see a lot of play over there in Tenyi Adventure combo decks. Since those decks ran lots of level 7s, such as Griffin and Tenyis, it could sometimes go into Tomahawk to make another card that's also banned in the TCG, Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon, to enable huge synchro boards by using all the materials left on the field. Even if these cards are no longer very popular in their meta due to them hitting other adventure cards, they still see play in Master Duel where the ban list hasn't hit them quite as hard yet. If Galaxy Tomahawk ever resolves fully, it's pretty much guaranteed you'll win the duel, either through an FTK or an insane negate board, and that's why it makes it the first slot on our list. Alright, and that's the list. If you happen to know of any other cards you might have missed or have any ideas for future videos just like this one, please let us know down in the comments.